Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what's almost like the Sussex Mafia today, in that we have another young man from Sussex, in addition to my previous interview. And I'm delighted that Chris is just down the road, in the village just down the road in Sussex, and it's Chris Crampton from Parta. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, how are you?
Not too bad. Well, Chris, COVID has obviously hit the entire travel world and the entire world very, very hard. As far as tourism is concerned in your region, it has hit as hard as anywhere else. And to the extent that most of the major inbound tourism destinations are not going to open their borders on current policy until the first quarter of 2021.
Yeah.
Do you understand that to still be the case? And if so, what are the ravages of those decisions in terms of the economies?
There are some indications of a slight loosening. Vietnam has been looking at increasing their air routes and allowing some short stays. Singapore has been looking at allowing some regional business travel. So there are some indications of a slight opening, but it's not something I think we should get particularly excited about until they happen. It's just part of the discussions, and as we see in our own country, there are lots and lots of discussions about what might happen, and you kind of just have to wait until they do, if they do. The impact, of course, is pretty devastating, as it has been in most countries. The proportion of tourism as a percentage of GDP is extremely high in some of these countries. So the impact, particularly in poorer destinations, is probably greater than it is here in terms of the effect that it has on people who work in the hospitality and tourism sector. It's something which I think is kind of an interesting one, that we have as an industry not been particularly effective globally. I don't mean just here, but globally, in emphasizing the size and the scale of travel in the world economy. And perhaps it's something that we need to kind of think about as to why we don't necessarily have the voice that we should do, given the scale of the industry itself.
Well, I think that's a very interesting one, because I think organisations such as your own, PATA, and all sorts of organisations around the world, when you think about the importance of tourism from an economic point of view, from a social perspective, employment, everything economic, you go through it. But since I've been involved in tourism, which is some considerable time now, tourism and travel have never really had a large voice at the top table. Why that should be, I think it's, I've discussed that with other people. They say that, that we don't make a good enough argument, and perhaps we're not radical enough. If we were French farmers, we'd be surrounding Heathrow Airport with taxis and never letting anybody in or out until we got our own way, until APD is dropped or whatever. But maybe that's the case. But as far as PATA is concerned, what's been your role since early this year, really, when it started to affect your region more so than here, and then it's become global? What has been your organisation's response? Have you just been sort of battening down the hatches and waiting until it blows over, or have you actually been, trying to be proactive in helping people?
As far as the UK and Ireland chapter is concerned, I mean, you have to ask part of the global international division about theirs. I'm not here to speak on their behalf. But as far as the UK and Ireland chapter is concerned, we've done everything we possibly can to try to support the particular sectors that have been hardest hit. And I think it's probably fair to say it's the private sector that has really suffered. We have done an awful lot of events, online events, and we still kind of have our plans for the physical events when we're allowed to, or when it's worthwhile. But we've tried to operate what we can as far as it's useful to the trade to do. So we've had semi-social events such as kind of quiz nights, online quiz nights, and bingo. But we've also, as we have currently over the last 2 weeks and also this week, Parta Live, which is an online replacement for the Taste of Parta event. That's the event side of things. From our membership perspective, we changed the whole structure of our pricing and our membership to particularly take account of the fact that the private sector have no income. The vast majority of them have no income, in order to keep them within the family, to support them and to give them access to the trade in terms of the events that we do, without it putting them in a particular financial situation to make it worse. So we are acutely aware, I mean, I work in the private sector myself, we're acutely aware of the challenges that that side of things has had. And we've been talking to our membership and listening to our membership and really trying to bend over backwards this year to ensure that they still have the voice through Parter and the access to our events, without it being a major financial hit at a time that they don't have the revenues to justify that.
Okay, getting back to the destination, will this COVID-19 create hotel closures, attraction closures, and so on, do you think?
I think it's kind of inevitable, as with all businesses, that not all are going to survive, not all are going to get through. Nevertheless, there are some that are opening, and some of the hotels and the attractions have used the downtime to go through the major refurbishments that are much more difficult than they are at the time when you have customers, when you have to close off particular areas in order to do that. So the response has been creative. It has been planning for the future. I don't fundamentally think that the travel sector has material changes over the long term. People still want to travel. People still want to go and visit places. I don't think that is going to change. How it changes and the structure of the industry is a slightly different matter. But the true fundamentals of the fact that people want to go on holiday, people want to travel for business, this online Zoom and the rest of it is very, very effective and has been very useful, but it doesn't replace face-to-face. The nature of our conversation would be slightly different if it was face-to-face, just because you have that human interaction. So I don't believe that is changing, and I don't believe that will ever change. People want to go to different places and see different places and new places. So we have a short-term crisis and a short-term issue. But for those who can get through and those who are planning to get through, there will be another side to get there. And they wish to try to be in a position to take advantage of that when they can. So, yes, we are going to see failures within the industry. I don't think it's breaking news that that's going to happen, and is already happening. But overall, I believe that most of the industry is planning for the long-term future rather than just the immediate. It's a question of the immediate cash flow, of course, which is the challenge we're all facing.
Okay, well, given that, that we think that, let's work on current plans, that the borders will open sometime in the first quarter of 2021. When do you think that tour operators, destinations, etc., will start to ramp up their marketing, their support for travel agencies and tour operators here in the UK?
As soon as they can, I would think. Kind of take it back a step. We are looking at 2020 being a huge drop, obviously, from 2019, and 2021 will not even begin to match 2019. To an extent, that doesn't matter. We have to have a start and make a start, and the scale of our operations will be geared towards the demand that there is. So 2021 will be nothing like as good as 2019, but it will be better than 2020. So on that basis, you will see the marketing and the support increasing from the moment that we have an indication that we can travel. That is the biggest thing. It's the biggest challenge that we have in this industry. Is not necessarily the close down per se. It's the fact that we don't have a start date for when we can get going. And the moment that we know that, then all of the industry will respond accordingly. And the sales and the volumes that we get from that, 2019 is irrelevant at the moment. We're looking at 2020. Any kind of increase is an opportunity for us to start growing what we do, for the tour operators to start selling, for the travel agents to start talking to clients. And everybody will support on that basis. So the tour operators will start doing their marketing. They're still doing some at the moment, but it's largely awareness, destinational. But the moment that we have the opportunity for people to start booking, then you'll suddenly see a step change in what they're doing.
That sounds very encouraging. Do you have any insight really as to how the British traveller is feeling about the Far East, about the Pacific, the Far East, etc.? Are they feeling comfortable about going back there? Are bookings for later in 2021 looking good?
Again, if you're talking versus 2019, no. If you're talking versus 2020, yes. So it depends with a cup half full or cup half empty approach. And the same thing applies when you have most of the surveys that start talking about whether people will travel or whether they won't. So clearly there is going to be a significant proportion of the traveling public who are not going to want to travel. But some will, and when you're talking at, you see the surveys that are being done. You still have something like 20% of the people replying saying yes, they're interested in traveling to Asia. Now, 20% might not seem a lot, but it's 20% versus 0%. So again, depending on how we look at it, we can either complain about our lot versus how it was a couple of years ago, or we can look at the positives in terms of the fact that there is latent demand there. People do want to travel. I was seeing a lot of people who were booked for 2020, not cancelling, but postponing to 2021. I think the tour operators and the travel agents have actually performed miracles in talking through with clients their options and persuading them to postpone rather than cancel. We know that they have the legal right to cancel. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying how the question of travel still being an innate desire for the public remains. And that's part of the reason for people to postpone rather than do anything else. And if we have that 20% of people open to travel, then that is a good start. That gets us going. That gets us a chance to start rebuilding. It might be, as people are talking about, not the return to the pre-COVID levels to 2023. I'm not worried about that as such. I want us to get a start and to start growing, and then we have a chance to do. I actually traveled to Greece, got back before the quarantine from Crete. And I have to say that the hotels down there and the airlines had done a sterling job in making travel feel as normal as possible within the limitations. Of course, you had the masks wearing, you had reduced meal service on board, a different boarding system, which actually worked very, very well. I think we should keep. But traveling is still possible. And whether it is our region or whether it is anywhere else, it is still fun. Our industry is fun. It's always been fun. And there is still that potential to do that. And it might be restricted to several countries in Europe at present from the UK, but the same applies when you have long haul, whether you're going west or east. It is possible. It is still quite enjoyable. And there might be nervousness, but people do still want to travel. And I don't think we should ever lose sight of that. It's probably the most important thing for our industry. We have restricted capacity and restricted demand because of legal restrictions at the present time. But people still want to go, and people will still want to go.
Good. Well, Chris, I wish you the very best of luck with your endeavours with your organisation. And I agree. I think that people do still want to travel. Number of barriers in the way at the moment. But hopefully during 2021, we will start to emerge from this darkness of COVID-19. And I look forward very much to coming to your region as soon as I bloody well can.
We would love you to be there, and I might be on the same flight.
Good man. Thank you very much, Chris.
Welcome.
Cheers.